Hey everybody, Space Wizard here with the fifth and final part of my Whispers of the Old Gods card review. In part 4, I reviewed the remaining class cards, so I'll now be going over the remaining neutral cards. First off, we have Disciple of Cthulhu, a 2-1 for 3 with a battlecry that deals 2 damage and gives your Cthulhu +2/+2. This is easily the strongest out of all of the Cthulhu minions. It can be played in just about any archetype to great effect, and you could even go as far to say it's better than Argent Horse Rider, since its damage bypasses taunts, so it might not be a stretch to say that this card will even see play in non-Cthulhu decks. Twin Emperor Vek'lor is a legendary 4-6 for 7 with a battlecry that summons another Emperor if your Cthulhu has at least 10 attack. The Emperor is an exact copy of Vek'lor, so assuming you're playing a Cthulhu deck, you're looking at essentially 2 Druids of the Claw, making this card effectively worth 10 mana. This is by far the strongest 7-drop in Standard, and it's going to play a big part in making Cthulhu decks viable. Twilight Geomancer is a 1-4 for 2 with Taunt and a battlecry that gives your Cthulhu Taunt. This card seems a little redundant to me since Cthulhu is probably going to clear the board and threaten lethal anyways, which would make Taunt on him relatively useless. If we see this card played, I think it's going to be just because it's a 1-4 with Taunt, which could actually be strong against aggro. Blackwater Pirate is a 2-5 pirate for 4 with your weapons cost 2 less. Given that this card's stats are so weak, I think it's very unlikely that it's going to be played. Pirate decks are inherently tempo-oriented, so playing a card that doesn't immediately impact the board seems counterproductive. Granted, its effect has potential to be very strong if even more pirate support gets added into the game in future sets. Crazed Worshipper is a 3-6 for 5 with Taunt, and whenever this minion takes damage, give your Cthulhu +1/+1. In Cthulhu decks, I can see this card getting played because its stats aren't terrible, and it will probably guarantee you that your Twin Emperors will be able to come out on turn 7. You can afford to have a slightly subpar turn 5 as long as you have the best turn 7 in the game. Aberrant Berserker is a 3-5 for 4 with Enrage +2 attack. This card's effect just isn't relevant enough to justify playing it. If your opponent doesn't kill it outright, then they're going to finish it off by pinging it with their hero power, or by trading into it with a minion that would have died to its 3 attack anyways. Amgam Rager is a 1-5 for 3, this is a joke card. Bilefang Tidehunter is a 2-1 Murloc for 2 with a battlecry that summons a 1-1 Ooze with Taunt. I can actually see this card being strong in aggro decks if classes that can't ping it for 1 with their hero power end up becoming more prevalent in the metagame. Otherwise, it's just too vulnerable to hero powers to get played. Bog Creeper is a 6-8 for 7 with Taunt. This card is very comparable to Ancient of War, although its stats are admittedly not as good, but given that the 7-drop pool isn't very strong right now, this card could potentially see some play in slower decks. Corrupted Seer is a 2-3 for 6 with a battlecry that deals 2 damage to all non-Murloc minions. I think this card has potential to be a sleeper hit. Let's assume you play a Consecration on turn 4. You've got 2 mana left over to either hero power or play a minion. This card gives you the Consecration and the minion in 1 card at the cost of hitting your side of the board as well. Effects like this are inherently strong in control decks, so if a 2 damage board clear is relevant on turn 6 more often than not, you can expect that this card will get played. Cyclopean Horror is a 3-3 for 4 with Taunt and a battlecry that gives it +1 health for each enemy minion. This card requires too many minions in play for it to be better than Sen'jin Shieldmaster, so it's pretty much unplayable. Darkspeaker is a 3-6 for 5 with a battlecry that swaps stats with a friendly minion. One way to think of this card is as a 3-6 with charge, since the minion you swap stats with will be able to attack immediately. You can also use its effect as a buff to protect minions with important effects on board. Either situation actually seems playable to me. The only problem is that both require you to already have a minion on board, which heavily restricts the power of this card and makes me lean towards thinking that it just isn't playable, but part of me says that this has potential to be good. Doomcaller is a 7-9 for 8 with a battlecry that gives your Cthulhu +2/+2, and shuffles it into your deck if it's dead. The applications of this card are very interesting. First and foremost, it lets you play your Cthulhu more than once, which should guarantee you the one provided you can live that long. And second, it helps stave off fatigue in the control matchup. Both of these effects are very strong, but the fact that your Cthulhu has to be dead already for this card to be good pretty much makes it unplayable. If a grinder pure control Cthulhu deck is strong, then this card will make it much stronger, but in every other Cthulhu deck variant, you're never going to get the opportunity to play this card. Evolved Kobold is a 2-2 for 4 with spell damage +2. This is kind of like a mini Malygos. I can actually see +2 spell damage being very threatening in the right deck, so I'd say there's some potential for this card to see play in a very niche spell burn deck. Midnight Drake is a 1-4 dragon for 4 with a battlecry that gives it +1 attack for each other card in your hand. This card's health is just flat out too low for it to be good. Ancient Shade was a 7-4 with an effect that was largely irrelevant in any deck that you would play it in, so I expect that Midnight Drake will see just as little play. Nat the Darkfisher is a legendary 2-4 for 2 with at the start of your opponent's turn, they have a 50% chance to draw an extra card. This card's effect is just too detrimental to play it in anything but a mill deck. But in a mill deck, this card is totally broken. Just as soon as mill is is viable, you're going to see this guy constantly. Nerubian Prophet is a 4/4 for 6 with at the start of your turn reduce this card's cost by 1. Best case scenario, you get this card in your opening hand and you play it on turn 3. That's just too unreliable and frankly not strong enough to be good. This is completely unplayable. Psych-o-Tron is a 3/4 for 5 with Taunt and Divine Shield. This card is our replacement for Sludge Belcher. It isn't quite as sticky, but if its Divine Shield absorbs 3 or more damage, it's straight up better than a Sludge Belcher. So in any deck that wants to play defensive on turn 5, you should definitely consider this card. Squirming Tentacle is a 2/4 for 3 with Taunt. This card's stats are just too weak for it to see any play. Twisted Worgen is a 3/1 for 2 with Stealth. I think face decks are going to gravitate towards this card because it's practically 3 guaranteed damage or more for 2 mana, but in any other archetype this card's stats are just too poor for it to get played. Zealous Initiate is a 1/1 for 1 with a death rattle that gives a random friendly minion +1/+1. Part of me wants to say that this would actually be pretty good in Zoo and aggro decks, but the stats are just too weak to justify playing it, I think. Any 1-drop that you can't play on turn 1 reliably probably isn't playable. Silithid Swarmer is a 3/5 for 3 with can only attack if your hero attacked this turn. So given that there's a neutral 3/4 that can just always attack, you're probably never going to see this card played in Standard. It might be good in certain arena decks though. Duskboar, Eldritch Horror, Faceless Behemoth, and Grotesque Dragonhawk are all just vanilla filler minions that I'm going to save some time by not reviewing. And that's the whole Whispers of the Old Gods set. Overall, I'm pretty content with the number of cards that seem playable, and I think Blizzard opened up a lot of room to make certain archetypes really strong in future sets. I'm looking forward to building all sorts of new decks as soon as the servers are stable. That's it for this week's video, guys, but don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I'll be back next week with another new video, but until then, you can check out Hearthhead.com or either of its social media pages for all sorts of Hearthstone-related content. See you next time, everybody.